Hello and welcome back to Paragon Q&A. I'm Amy and I'm here with Rye and Tyler. And
Hey, Amy,
today we're
what's
going to
up?
be Hey,
I know I
today we're
missed
going to
you.
be going over the Ruby Slippers and the Goonies Adventure Collection. Are you guys ready?
I'm
We're
ready.
ready.
Let's go.
Awesome. Well, let's start off with the Ruby Slippers. Those are from The Wizard of Oz in case anyone has not seen the classic film. So, Rye, tell us a little bit about Ruby Slippers.
All right, the Ruby Slippers. They were the third thing we did, right, Tyler? That was the third. I mean, we were working on a bunch of stuff
Yeah,
at
it's
the
hard.
same
It's hard to
time.
kind of figure out which is which, but it's definitely because so much of it was simultaneous. But it was definitely the if we were going to say what was the third, it would probably
Land,
be those.
yeah,
Yeah,
like the third landed piece. So Amy,
yeah,
that was what we were working on before you joined us, and yeah, we were grinding. We were working on a bunch of stuff at the same time. So the Ruby Slippers, yeah, they were in the mix. But yeah, I think yeah, it was the third item we ultimately landed. So when we set out to do those, man, what a crash course in all things Wizard of Oz we were on. We were on a mission. So we had to learn. I mean, I was vaguely familiar with it, but in all my years, I'd never, making stuff, I'd never replicated a pair of Ruby Slippers. I was a fan of them. I had owned a replica pair. But
wore
when we
them constantly.
absolutely, damn
Like
it,
it
I
wouldn't
felt
stop
pretty,
talking about it.
dude. I felt
Always,
pretty. You know that.
I
Quit
do know
hassling,
that.
quit hassling me. You know they looked good on me too. Anyway,
Way better on you.
so the slippers. We had to really we had to learn a lot about those more than you would ever want to learn in a lifetime.
Mhm.
So there's multiple pair of surviving slippers out there. We won't get into the complete history of the slippers, but we ultimately settled on what you see over at the Smithsonian. And I've seen some of the reviews of our slippers when people really start breaking them down. Oh, the ribbons this and the ribbons. Well, which one are you comparing them to? They're all a little bit different. The ribbons are a little bigger, a little shorter, a little squattier. Back in the day when prop makers were making such things, the rule was, hey, does close one eye and squint with the other? Does it look the same from 3 feet away? And ultimately, the Ruby Slippers are such a blur of color in your face, throughout the whole movie. They all look the same. But yeah, we settled in on the pair at the Smithsonian. I forget, are they calling that number 4 or 5, whatever it is off the top. But that's where we set our sights and what we sought out to replicate. So by the time these things came to fruition, we had learned that there's over 2,000 sequins on each shoe, and then you've got the individual jewels and the rubies and the pattern in which they're sewn on, all of which we set out to recreate, straight down to the orange felt that you see on the bottom of the shoe, which we've spoken about in other episodes. People sometimes ask, I love the ruby slipper, why'd you stick orange felt on the bottom of it? Because it is, because it's supposed to be there. So yeah, the idea was the felt would quiet the shoes as they skipped along the yellow brick road on the set. Tyler, what you got?
Uh, so it's funny with this prop. That was one of the ones that I came into this really not knowing anything about. Because I mean, everyone has seen The Wizard of Oz, but there's some props where you just really know a ton about them,
Yeah, just
and
dialed in.
there's some that you just don't. So there's a huge learning curve for me too with these, especially because as I was dealing with more of the manufacturing, like day to day. I mean, you're making shoes. Like these are, partially made in a shoe factory. Not saying you should wear them, but they're like shoe quality. They're not replicas of shoes. They are shoes that just like the real ones. And so there's all sorts of intricacies to working with shoe factories, trying to teach them how to make something exact versus what a shoe factory might think was exact versus what a customer thinks is exact. A lot of back and forth, a lot of back and forth over the shape of cut gems, um, shape of the smaller gems that kind of outline the bows. There's just a ton of learning and just a ton of monitoring. Probably one of the more heavily monitored projects that we've had.
Yeah, and I was trying to think about what Adam's quote was when he was talking about the ruby slippers. For us, we're prop makers. So, speaking for myself, I'm into gadgets. I like things that shoot fire and explode and are modular and do things. So while I appreciated the slippers, I never thought about making them before. So one day you're a prop maker and the next day you're in the apparel business, although not meant to be worn. We
Yeah.
always, they're not intended to be worn. They're meant to look good on your shelf, of course. And I don't know who would go stomping around with that orange felt on the bottom except Tyler.
It's
But
funny. My kids always ask, and they have to ask it. They ask it this way because I have a pair here that my older daughter has taken, and they'll constantly, probably. I mean, no kidding. Probably twice a week, I hear from upstairs, "Dad, if I wear clean socks, can I put the ruby slippers on?"
go.
So that's the rule. You have to use clean socks. And I have two girls, so they're both fighting over them.
Yeah, I
But
think
yeah,
Cute.
if I put on clean socks, can I wear the ruby slippers?
yeah. Weird little things like the soles, the color of the shoe on the inside. Of course, it's white kid glove leather on the original dance shoes. So we set out to recreate that as new white kid glove leather that's supposed to be on the inside.
It's
Of
kind of
course,
yellow now.
yeah, it's yellowed down a little. That's true. That's true. And Oh, the dance shoe company. Of course, it's the only thing we omitted from the inside of the shoe for obvious reasons. We can't call out the company that originally made them. So, but I do see replica labels on the internet. So there you go.
Well,
If anybody
also,
wants-
the originals have Judy Garland's name written inside, and we wanted to replicate that, but the studio wouldn't allow us to
Right.
use her name. They said
Yep.
we could say Dorothy Gale, but that's not on there, and we figured nothing's better than something wrong.
Yeah, and as we've mentioned a little bit of that in other videos that people may or may not have seen or will see, where our vision of what we want to do and what the studio ultimately lets us do for any number of reasons is well, it's two different things, and that was one. We really wanted to put Judy Garland on there, but I suppose there was a conflict with this estate or something like that that just prohibited that.
Yeah,
And
they
then,
just wouldn't let us. We really tried too. I mean, we
yeah,
went
and
back
then
3 or 4 different times.
the dance shoe manufacturer that the original slippers were made from, they were just that. They were a dance shoe. We obviously couldn't include that, but I have seen people add to the replicas after the fact, so that's fun. Maybe I need to do it to mine, but there you
There you
go.
go.
Remember, Adam was saying he
Smithsonian
actually
has a
wanted
very,
to,
very good complete report. So you could
Mhm.
see the inside where the prop maker has put Judy Garland.
We love the Smithsonian. In fact, we're lucky enough. We're proud. That was one of our first placements where we got one of our replicas. The Smithsonian carries the ruby slipper replicas, so that's a
So you
pretty
can
good
see them.
compliment.
Yeah, you can see
Yeah,
the originals in person and go and pick up one of our replicas at the store.
there you are.
I was saying Adam Savage is talking about when we were doing the sort of aftermarket, people kind of take it and props kind of live their own life after they get in someone's hands. If you recall when he did our review video, he said, like we said, we built it white leather as first done. And he was saying he was going to kind of like do like a wash of yellow in there to
Oh
kind
yeah,
of make it look a little more aged. And
Adam likes. He will savage a replica. No pun
yeah,
intended. He will stick a prop in the back of his car and let it bounce around on the
mhm.
the wheel bin there for a few weeks, and then it's perfect.
I
So
love
I
it.
have no doubts he's aged his down nicely since then.
Yeah.
What else was he talking about doing that with? He was talking about doing that with the bat grapnel.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's going
well,
to go chip it and hit it with chains or something.
yeah, down his driveway a few times.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about the grapnels in another episode. But the ruby slippers, yeah, they proved challenging. It was just a lot of quality control, staying on top of again how the sequins were placed, what was overlapping, what wasn't, the quality of the sequence, how the jewels are placed on the bows and so forth, and then the packaging, how to get them there. I saw somebody do a review where they were like, "Oh, they put the ruby slippers in a plastic bag." Well, the reason the ruby slippers are in a plastic bag is so all those sequins don't snag that foam when you're pulling it out. It's a nice, smooth removal from the die cut foam there. And then what else? We were paranoid too. We wanted to make sure everything made it. good and clean. There's what we put in the top of those box lids, Tyler. It was it's a
The
moisture.
moisture.
It's
Uh,
I think it's silica or something. Yeah, those little moisture barriers because you don't want the leather to get
the
rotty.
green piece that will actually pop if the moisture gets too high. It
Yeah, it's like silica packets. I think they're
well,
called
we had the
technically.
silica packets. There was one other thing in there. I just forget what it's called, but we didn't really have to have it, but we just wanted to have it. But suffice it to say, all of them showed up just great.
Well, because it is an organic material. I mean, it
Yeah,
is still leather, and you don't want, some people open their stuff and put it on display. Some people throw their box in the closet for 8 years, and you wanted to, you see what happens when you throw a leather jacket in a closet in the dark for 8 years. We didn't want that to be a surprise.
yeah, we were concerned about all. It ultimately led to when we built our offices, why we are environmentally controlled in our warehouse. In southern heat, we didn't want anything to happen with packaging, even the shipping boxes. So, yeah, our facility is environmentally controlled in part for those early projects, like the ruby slippers, making sure everything stays nice and put together. I think the only other thing we learned about the slippers, we had that's where we had, and we talked about that before too, where we just decided we weren't going to do sleeves anymore on the packaging.
Yeah.
I don't even feel motivated. Well, now I've opened it up, so I guess we got to talk about it. I was going to say, why did I say that? Anyway, so yeah, we wanted to protect the foil and the shipping, the art box itself. So
also, why we don't do foil anymore.
That's exactly it. So yeah, we had stuck a sleeve, like a dust cover that you'd find on a book, over the ruby slippers. And the idea was, we thought, all right, if the sleeve takes a couple dings, it's done its job. It's protected the art box. But hey, we're collectors too. But never in a million years would I have fixated so much on a sleeve as a couple have. I love you still, even though you're obsessed on that dust cover. But that's why we're not going to do dust covers anymore. So yeah, out of an abundance of caution, we wrapped that box up with an outer sleeve, and then we had a few people get them and be like, my sleeve's scuffed. Well, your art box isn't, but I want a clean sleeve. So no more sleeves and no more foil, because foil, to Tyler's point, was really hard to work with. And
so hard to work with.
yeah, it's one of those, seemed like a great idea. It's pretty.
It was a great idea. It looked great. It's
Yeah.
just when you start to get returns because of, like you're saying, like when people start returning stuff because of box issues, not product issues, you start to rethink your theories on why you're doing certain things.
Yeah, and when they start grading a sleeve like a comic book, yeah,
Mhm.
it's tough, and we
Yeah.
appreciate that though. I mean, again, we're collectors too. It's just everybody's got their some dig in more than others. How's that? So that's it. That's all I've got on ruby slippers. Unless you've got something, Amy. You got any questions or?
No, I think not. I actually was here right at the end with all of the customs, you know, snafus of them thinking they were actual shoes. So
Mhm.
that pretty much covers everything. And we just picked up a phone and said, hey, they're not shoes, they're prop replicas, and fixed that problem. But
Well, it's funny, and it would be great if it went that quickly. But yeah, I remember you were here
I
for
was
that. You were here when we unloaded the container for those.
well, and I wasn't technically a part of the team quite yet because the customs documentation came back saying, hey, we're basically importing Pradas. You guys had called me to say, hey, is there a code for prop
Mhm.
replica shoes? And that was kind of my first real conversation with the team about products that we actually were dealing with, because we needed to let customs know that it wasn't Prada or Louis Vuitton shoes that we were bringing in. They were actual replicas. And that was a fun project to get to work with you guys on, because I learned a lot about it too.
Well, it's like Tyler was saying in another video when we were talking about the Creep Show ashtray. For us, it's a model, that we're bringing in, a replica, and customs. It's marble, it's pewter, it's a home goods item then, and you pay more to land it. And such was the case with the shoes. We still ended up spending a lot more money landing those than we wanted, but like Amy said, we did have to explain, hey, these aren't meant for the store. These are meant to go on somebody's shelf. And I remember I kept fussing, saying, it's certainly you're not charging this to people who are doing like what was I using as an example? The wooden shoes with, like, if you went to
Yes.
Holland and you got a souvenir pair of
Clogs.
clogs. And I'm like, I know they're not paying this percentage. There's no way they're offering them that cheap if they are. And I was losing my mind trying to impress that upon customs, but we don't always get our way, but we came out better than we thought we would. So yeah, we could burn up a lot of time just talking about trials and tribulations with HS customs. So
we did learn that clogs have their own HS code. So
they do.
it's also good to know too.
I should have painted a windmill on the front of the ruby slippers and we would have been better off. So there you go.
There's no place like home.
Nope.
Okay, so speaking of, we are going to move on because I know we have quite a few things to talk about with the Goonies Adventure Collection. Part of which, because there's 3 different pieces in it. Why
this one actually went pretty well.
Yeah.
This is a pretty flawless project.
We needed this one or we were going to quit.
Yeah.
We needed a win. So we were so frustrated. And again, it's funny. I'm just thinking in retrospect, we talk about some of these other items and we're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. And then we get to this point, we're like, it was really bad. But now the Goonies set came along. That was a good time. We needed
it. Was actually pretty easy. I mean, all things considered, everything kind of just worked on that one.
Our reference came together quick.
You guys had access to some of the original screen used stuff, correct?
We did, yeah. And I'm going to let Tyler go with a good bit of that. I just wanted to mention how we got there on a set. So yeah. Again, active in the community, we've seen what other people have offered, and we know a lot of the diehards had they've got their favorite copper bones key, they've got their favorite maps, and so on. There's a lot of guys out there who have done some great work. We just knew we didn't want to do the key and then the map and then the coin. So we decided we would just try to offer everything in one set. Hey, one and done. Here's everything you need. You're set for your adventure. And when the first thing we laid into, I believe it was the copper bones key, and then we were fortunate.
That was the first thing.
Yeah, we were really fortunate in how we began to reference that, because there was a lot of, well, my cousin has one, or oh, this is a picture of one in auction, and oh, we think this is, there's a couple shots in magazines, but nobody really had anything definitive. So you were almost, well, let me see what I can get together from.
Everyone has one that was cast from the original.
Absolutely.
And everyone says theirs is cast from the original.
Right. But
there's that version, like we were saying, like there's all, the copper bones key is the most, the most important part of that set. And it's been done several times. And so we're like, we love Goonies. We just don't want to do that same one that everyone has 1, 2, 3 different versions of. And we kind of lucked out because a couple of years ago, one of the Goonies actors had posted on social media like, hey, I didn't realize I had this. I took one home from set. And it's got some pretty stark differences from the ones that had been kind of out there and that people think of as the key. And so since no one had done that, we were kind of like, oh, like this is our chance. Like we still get to do like the most important bit of it, but we can do it different. So we're not just, shoehorning another one of the same thing you've seen 20 times down the customer's throats. And we're lucked out with that. And that's why. So this isn't our final, but this is one of the paint masters for it. I mean, you can see, like when you look at this compared to the other keys that are out there and have come out, very different, but no less authentic to the actual film. And none of those other ones are this one.
Yeah, so it is unique in that sense. And just like Tyler held that up, the actor was kind enough to hold it straight up.
Yeah, I mean, it was holding it. I mean, about as good a reference image as you could have, in the imagery. And I believe, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I believe when we reached out to that actor's representation, they sent us a higher resolution photo of that photo.
Yeah, because we did talk about, and we're not being cagey with names. We're just trying to be considerate. It is all. But we talked about maybe doing a signature series too, and it just never came to light. where we thought it might be fun to, you know, we went through a bunch of different actors from the film that we thought we might work with. And then
It was also during the scary part of COVID. No one
it
really wanted
was,
people up in your house. I mean, we had talked about, oh, can we come out and actually see that prop? And like, well, the actor involved isn't really comfortable having anyone in his house to do stuff like that with all the protocols in place, you know. And so, but he's like, but here's a good photo, you know. And so it feels like it was so long ago, but like, don't forget, people were
you
really
know what,
scared for a long time.
man, it kind of was now. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, not terribly long, but yeah. So with that little bit of reference, that really helped the Copper Bones key along.
Mhm.
And then we had kind of scrapped the idea of a signature series. Again, the goal was to land that thing around a couple $100 for everything, and any signatures that we could have added from anyone. It would have just really driven the price and not really have amped the cool factor of the project or anything. So, you know, how it ended up being best. But I think the second piece we worked on, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, wasn't it? Was it was the doubloon, right?
Yep, this is the paint
There
master
you
for
go.
that.
And we ultimately got the reference from that. I believe it was a piece that ultimately entered into auction.
It was a very well photographed piece that
Yeah.
was screen used from an auction catalog. And I actually I sculpted this one for us as well as the copper bones. And so I used that reference from just spectacular photos that were in that catalog. Really, really great.
And it led to, so the next choice with those two pieces is, what are we going to make it in? So we talked about resin. All right, everybody's done resin. We talked about all the different materials that we could go through, and ultimately, of course, you want to do it in metal. Of course, you want it to feel like what you know this thing's supposed to feel like in your mind's eye, if you will. So yeah, when you pick up a copper bones key, you feel like you can do something with it. It's got some
Yeah.
good hit to it, and the paint job ended up being great. We were talking about before we started this, Amy, uh, who did the best paint master. Of course, Tyler's got his paint master that he's showing off there, and I conveniently forgot mine today. So, you know, we get a little competitive in house, but ultimately
I can't remember because one of us, we both liked the way we'd done these.
I think
And
it was one of the rare instances where we both liked the other guy's work. Where
no, but and then one of us had a better key and one had a better coin.
dude, that was it. That was it. I think I did
Yeah,
you did the coin.
I can't remember.
That
But
sound
I'm
right?
looking. Yeah, I think yours might have been the key, and I think my paint master was the coin,
And then
and so that's where we went.
we let Jared. I think Jared decided which ones should go in the set or something like that. He was our tiebreaker. But no, that was one of the rare instances as we do more of these. Yeah, Tyler and I are always pretty competitive about finishes and the final prototype. So it's always a good time, as you know, Amy. And sometimes you have to referee. But anyway, yeah, those ended up great. And then we got into the map, and that was 100% you, Tyler. I didn't have anything to do with the map other than to say wrong, right, do that, X.
More wrongs than rights.
Yeah, exactly. Then finally, oh look, it's all done. But
The map was cool. And I mean, I didn't know that this existed, and a lot of actual, real, legit Goonies collectors didn't know. Warner Brothers themselves supplied us with what we used as the base texture. I'll explain why it's the base texture for the map, because they actually had apparently they had taken the original map and copied the base version of that and gave it away as crew gifts back in the day. And so they had a
That's
great
nice.
scan of kind of what I would call like the nude map, which is essentially just the map, like I don't know, this sounds stupid, the map part of the map. Because there's like the map part, and there's a lot of hand drawn annotations and things all over it. This
so
was
the
base of
grid and
that.
the seal, you know,
Mhm,
there's the seal as you fold it over like an old Mad magazine to
mhm.
to show the front, and then as you unfold, all that was there. The main grid work and hallmarks, if you will, of the prop. But as we were told, everybody added their little bits and pieces to the layers of that map that you ultimately see in the movie.
Yeah,
But yeah,
those were recreated by just layers and layers of high-res screenshots matched up with the map and tracing, and it was like it was basically just putting a giant puzzle together.
yeah, and all of which Amblin, because didn't Warner? It was one of those cases where a studio
Yeah, everything
actually
came
helped.
from
They helped a
and
little
went
bit.
through Amblin. Yeah.
Yeah, and who we were working with over there at Warner at the time did make the effort to truly reach out to Amp because we had to wait a little bit. And then when we finally got the file, we were like, wow, because up until then we were like, man, we're going to have to recreate this whole thing. It's going to be a lot of work here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were really fortunate when that came along. And
They
then
gave us a great base, and
yeah,
that kind of ties, like everything you kind of like to, when you can, tie something back to a screen used, and so it does have that like screen used kind of tie back. It's not just us making things up. Like this is a good
yeah,
clean scan of the original before the whatever set designer or art director went in and wrote all of his family's names in secret or whatever on there. You're like, I swear to God, one is like, if you look really closely, it's just like Mexican food items. Like there's
yeah.
all sorts
It's
of like
somebody. It's like a
really,
takeout order. Yes.
yeah. There's all sorts of stuff written on that. It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Stuff
it.
So
no one expected to. You're writing it, and you don't think anyone 30 years later is going to be minutiaing it under a 8K Blu-ray rip.
yeah, and as we recreated it, we were resubmitting, for approval from Amblin. So finally, to get it all nailed, and when you think about something as iconic as the Goonies, something you love when you're a kid, and then there you are, your best efforts are going before Amblin, and who may be going over your stuff. It's flattering when you finally get it all wrapped up, and everybody's like, "Yeah, it looks great. You're clear to produce them."
I
So
want to say, I think they said Steven Spielberg actually has a hand in these approvals,
yeah.
which is like really cool. Like the guy whose brainchild this was is looking at something you made and going, yeah, I put my seal of approval on this.
Well, you remember everything, and this will be fun, Amy, for another video. But it's too good not to mention, in the same breath as Spielberg, when we were really getting into the cryocan,
Hmm.
uh, what the stuff they wanted, the photos, the reference, I mean, down to uh, how this thing was going to, not just for the sake of curiosity, how it was going to work mechanically, but how close are you to this, the real source material. We had to elaborate a lot there. So yeah, it was really flattering and a little intimidating when you lay
Hmm.
into it. But for the sake of the Goonies, we'll talk with the other one down the road. But as far as Goonies go, yeah, we were really happy with how the whole thing ended up. And that was another example of using foil, damn it, on the front of a box.
No
That
slipcover.
no
No.
slip cover, but we'll still not use foil again, even though it looks great. But there's all the ones that you got to weed out that don't look great to get to the good ones. So there's that. And we've done enough of that. So there you are. There's two projects. There's the Goonies, and we're done, I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll cover some more products later on in later videos, but I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to talk about those two. Especially, it's a pleasure for me when we're at trade shows when somebody asks to see the Goonies pieces. You always kind of act like they're a lot lighter than they are. Rylan, you did this at one of the first shows that I was with you at. You just kind of pretended like the copper bones key was just not that heavy, and the guy like practically like, oh, wow, and just
Yeah.
it's so much fun to really get those kind of reactions from people. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to go
Sure.
through all these, and the next time maybe we can talk about the supernatural blades. So we'll key in for a little bit more episodes with Paragon Q&A. Someday we'll figure out a better name for whatever we're doing, but for the time being, I'm Amy. This is Rye. That's Tyler. That's Rye. There we go. Hey, pointing in mirror aspect. So, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, Amy. We'll see you guys.
Thanks, Amy.